the Dallas Cowboys.
Cowboys at 49ers this weekend. San Francisco growing as a favorite after they heard our takes. This line now at 4.5. Cowboys off a bye. Here's Dak on what the Cowboys worked on this week. Take a listen.
For us, particularly on offense, communication and consistency. It's the best two ways to sum it up. Being consistent on the outside, the playmakers, us in the passing game, and then just communicating up front. I can just tell you, being out there, it's a lot louder on the line of scrimmage. Guys with more confidence. That allows the play to start with a whole better vibe and confident beginning.
Okay, Brew, who you got in this one?
Nick thought he was slick on the morning call. He said he predicted, Brew's going to take the Cowboys. He's been hinting at it all week. That's what he said. And I will be honest in that I have thought about that.
Really?
They're coming off a bye. San Francisco is banged up. Obviously, the Cowboys are too, but so are the Niners. And the Cowboys are desperate. However, the Niners are even more desperate. I'm going with San Francisco. I can't, Nick, unsee down 47-9 to the Lions. I can't unsee that, all right? And I get that those teams right now are playing far better than San Francisco. But still, though, going into each of those games, it was like the Cowboys got to prove something, or they're desperate. Like, it's a huge game. They got to show up. Like, they weren't obviously quite as desperate as now, just because we're a little later in the season. But those were huge games where it was like they got to show up, and they didn't. And even, you know who's more desperate than Dallas, Nick? The Niners. They'll drop to 3-5. We've talked about their schedule all week. It's going to be hellacious. And so they need a win. And then on top of that, strategically, the Cowboys just have trouble stopping the run, particularly against teams that can really run. And San Francisco's a top 10, top 5 run team, and Dallas is a bottom 5 run defense team. So I think Jordan Mason has a big game. They are able to run the ball, and then that opens up the play action for Purdy, and the Niners win. What will probably be a good game, but I think the Niners win.
I thought there was a chance Brew would pick the Cowboys, but more what I thought was all week, Brew was really trying to prime the audience. Like, hey, man, the Niners are in so banged up and in such rough shape that, if they lose, you can't blame anyone in these spots. Sometimes the team, like, it really felt like it was pre-excuses for the San Francisco 49ers. Here's what I'll tell you. If Micah plays, I think the Cowboys win, but I don't think Micah's going to play.
No, there was a video of him walking okay, I guess.
I mean, he hasn't been ruled out. The Cowboys, so Micah's their best player. Their second best player also hasn't practiced this week, but that's because he's at jury duty, and I got to tell you, I don't like it.
He's just a kicker.
Weirdest story.
I understand he's just the kicker. It doesn't, to me, bode well for a lot of things. And I understand do your civic duty. I get that. I understand this is probably a maybe illegal take, but certainly an unpopular one. I feel like that's not great. And I do worry about Nicky Bosa against the Cowboys rookie left tackle if they line him up over there. I know he normally lines up on the other side, but if they move him around. And the other thing is this. I don't know how much applies to the Cowboys in this spot, because they had the bye, but every single team that has played the Lions has lost their next game. The Lions, and that continued last night. When you played the Lions beat you twice, really, this year. Now, the Cowboys had a bye week, so how much is that going to impact it? So all these things say the Niners win the football game. Why?
I didn't hear one thing. I believe in Brock Purdy.
I didn't hear that from him.
You must believe in Brock Purdy.
You have
Why?
to.
You picking them to beat Dallas. Dallas coming off a bye week in a desperate situation.
And you believe in Brock
Dak's
Purdy.
got the best receiver out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not Dak,
what does
not
that
Brock.
do with Brock Purdy? What are you guys talking about?
believe in him.
Brew,
I'm just saying you believe in him. He's the quarterback of the team. You believe in him.
Can I say something real quick?
If you picked it up,
that's not at all how this works. I don't pick the Niners to lose every game they play, first of all. Second of all, Brew gave the keys to the game. Didn't mention Purdy's name a mumbling once.
No, I did. I said the play's going to open up play action for Brock to cook.
Yeah, well, I don't think Brock's going to cook. I think this will be more what Brew said, the running game being able to cook. And I think Cowboys defense was mediocre to begin with, and at this point is so banged up, I just don't know how they're going to be able to stop the Niners on the ground.
Just as far as bye weeks go,
This was not a restful one.
It wasn't, and we didn't pull this out.
Yeah.
But both CD and Dak were asked about the tours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jerry's
We got some?
No, I didn't. I didn't even pull it. I was just chatting about it.
Yeah.
But I feel like if after they getting humiliated last year and they've lost 2 in a row to Brock, this is going to be a bad loss for the Cowboys. It's going to be a demoralizing loss. Every loss feels bad. I know we say that because we magnify the Cowboys, but every loss has been bad.
No, whoever loses this game is going to have rightful panic.
Yeah.
Because I know we're all.
That's true.
Vegas is picking the Niners. We're all picking the Niners, it seems like. But if the Cowboys win, the Niners are in potential season from hell, Super Bowl hangover. Wait, is this window
Closing.
yeah, I mean, it's like, well, but Brandon Ayuk done for the year. People don't, they were talking when they re-signed Debo, or when they re-signed Ayuk, that Debo could be the one traded in the offseason. Trent Williams, 35 years old, all this stuff. Could their season be wrecked before Christian McCaffrey plays it down? If they lose this week, the answer is yes. Yeah. And so, again, I don't think they're going to lose. And then for the Cowboys, just more of the same tumult that they've been dealing with the last few weeks after being embarrassed.
All right, quickly before we go, Eagles headed into Cincinnati Sunday at 1 o'clock. Eagles coming off a big win against the Giants. And Joe Burrow all of a sudden looking at getting to 500. Brew, who do you trust more here, Philly or Cincy?
Well, this is interesting. The question, who do you trust more? I'm taking Philly in this game. All right, I know it's going to be a good game, but I like their defense better. Cincinnati's defense obviously hasn't played that well. And I think, Phil, look, it was only one game. It was only against the Giants, but they blasted the Giants. I think the vibes are getting a lot better there. I think they figured something out with Saquon kind of being, okay, let's go through Saquon, and we got the big plays with A.J. Brown. I think they lead the league in big plays, the downfield plays. So they're coming together a little bit. Who I trust more as a team, both of them are obviously up and down, Jekyll and Hyde, but because of Burrow, I would say I trust Cincinnati more. But in this game, I'm taking Philly.
So to me, it's not I trust Cincinnati more, and I think Cincinnati's going to win. And I think that these two teams are actually quite similar in that they have star wide receivers, probably the best pair of wide receivers of any team in the league outside of Miami. Should be noted, T. Higgins, you guys know I have to peruse all the late-breaking injury and weather reports before Nick's picks come in. I was thinking about this. T. Higgins showed up on the injury report an hour ago with a quad contusion, and he's listed as questionable for the game. I'm just saying questionable for the game. The Bengals offense does not cook the way it does without both those guys out there.
Yeah, would have thought.
And so,
he needs some Avengers.
And so I don't trust Philly's secondary at all against Cincinnati.
They've been pretty good against the passes.
I know that's what the numbers say. I don't trust them.
Okay.
I'm not saying I don't trust the numbers. But I don't think you.
That was a big problem last year, for sure.
The numbers do look better than.
I think but I think they've gotten better.
I agree with you. I think Fangio has helped. I think they've gotten a little bit better. I don't think I think the numbers say they're top 10 in a bunch of categories.
Yeah.
That to me, it doesn't pass my eye test, so to speak. I think they are a great, pass defense. But Philly has the better running back. But Cincinnati has, in my opinion, the far better quarterback and the better coach. So they're the more trustworthy team. Both defenses have questions. Both have star guys on offense. But the Bengals have clearly the better quarterback, and I think clearly the better coach.
This will be interesting.
Interesting. Both coaches.
But Burrow's great when they lose, and okay when they win. It's an odd mix.
Well, yeah.
A little bit of dud watch for OKW.
For who?
Joe Burrow. Oh, revenge game.
You should have said that earlier.
I just said it.
You should have.
It's on dud watch.
Then put that back in the show.
That would have been the highlight of the segment.
What are you doing?
Was he?
47-9 to the Lions. I can't unsee that, all right? And I get that those teams right now are playing far better than San Francisco. But still, going into each of those games, it was the Cowboys got to prove something, or they're desperate. It's a huge game. They got to show up. they weren't obviously quite as desperate as now, just because we're a little later in the season. But those were huge games where it was like they got to show up, and they didn't. And even, you know who's more desperate than Dallas, Nick? The Niners. They'll drop to 3-5. We've talked about their schedule all week. It's going to be hellacious. And so they need a win. And then on top of that, strategically, the Cowboys just have trouble stopping the run, particularly against teams that can really run. And San Francisco's a top 10, top 5 run team, and Dallas is a bottom 5 run defense team. So I think Jordan Mason has a big game. They are able to run the ball, and then that opens up the play action for Purdy, and the Niners win. What will probably be a good game, but I think the Niners win.
So I